We're all swimming in this ocean of information, but how do you actually find the important stuff, the signals that are hidden in all that noise? Well, that's exactly the problem we're going to dig into today with Investigator AI, a tool that's built to bring clarity out of total data chaos.
I mean, for so many of us, this question is the daily grind, isn't it? You've got these huge, high-stakes decisions to make, but the key info is everywhere, buried in different documents, scattered across different systems. It honestly feels like you're trying to solve a massive puzzle, but you've only got half the pieces, and the pressure's on. You're left trying to connect all the dots yourself, and it's just exhausting.
Okay, so let's get into it. Why are the old ways of doing things, well, just not cutting it anymore? The fact is, the sheer amount of data we have to deal with today is completely overwhelming the traditional methods of due diligence. They just weren't designed for this kind of world. And this right here is probably a familiar picture. The old way is all about manual work. It's slow, it's expensive, and worst of all, it gives you this false sense of security. You're looking at these little snapshots in time from siloed sources, and the real risks, they usually only pop up in the rearview mirror, when it's way too late to do anything about it. And really, this is the heart of the problem. All that fragmentation means you're being forced to make these critical calls based on an incomplete picture. You're relying on assumptions and, let's be honest, data that was probably outdated the second it was printed on a report. So what's the way out of this information chaos? Well, it's a new approach centered on something called a reasoning engine. Now, don't just think of this as another search bar. Think of it more like a system that can actually understand and connect information, kind of like a human investigator would, but at a massive scale. So instead of just dumping a long list of search results on your plate, Investigator AI acts more like a digital detective. It's actively piecing together all those little fragments of information from all over the place to build one single, coherent story. It pulls in things like legal records, corporate filings, news articles, all of it. And then it starts mapping out the relationships between people and companies, the kind of connections that, let's face it, would be practically invisible to the naked eye. And this is all for those moments that really, truly matter. We're talking about the big decisions, the ones where a single misconnection could have enormous consequences. The whole point is to replace that feeling of guesswork with real, evidence-based confidence. So how does this thing actually do it? How does it work? Let's pop the hood for a second and look at the mechanics of how it takes all this messy, static data and turns it into something that's, well, alive. This is the fundamental game changer right here. Instead of a static report that goes stale almost immediately, Investigator AI builds what it calls a living graph. Just imagine a dynamic map of all the connections between people, companies, and events that is constantly updating itself in real time. This means you can see not just the obvious first-level risks, but also those sneaky second-order risks, the dangers that are hidden 2 or 3 connections down the line. And these 3 things are really the engine room. First, you have entity resolution. This is huge. It figures out if the J. Smith in a court document is the same John Smith in your contract. Then there's continuous reassessment. If someone's risk profile changes, you get an alert. It's not a one-and-done check. And this last one is so important, explainable intelligence. Every single finding can be traced back to an original source document. There's no black box AI here. Everything is auditable. And this is what it all adds up to. Think about all that time you've wasted jumping between a dozen browser tabs, spreadsheets, and PDF documents. That's gone. Everything you need is pulled into one single, controlled workflow. It just brings a sense of order and calm to the chaos of an investigation. Now, this is an absolutely crucial point, especially for anyone who hears AI and gets a little nervous. This technology is designed to work with you. It's not here to replace you. Think of it as the ultimate assistant. It does all the heavy lifting, all the tedious data gathering and analysis, so that you can focus on what humans do best, using your experience, your intuition, and your judgment to make the final critical call. Exactly. It's built to shine a spotlight on the areas that need your attention. The system never says this is good or this is bad. It just surfaces the patterns and the connections so that you, the expert, have the clearest possible view to make your decision. You're always in the driver's seat. Part of building that trust is being really clear about what this tool is not. It is not a surveillance platform. It is not an automated decision maker that just spits out answers. It is not a replacement for your professional judgment. It's an intelligence tool designed purely to give you more clarity, not to take away control. And this really points to the future of due diligence, right? moving from a one-off task to this constant, vigilant process that can spot risks long before they turn into catastrophes. It leaves you with this really profound question. What if trust was no longer just a gut feeling, but something you could actually measure, something defensible? Well, that's the kind of clarity Investigator AI is aiming to deliver.